My grandmother used to say a hit dog will holler, and it hollered through this room. Mr. DeSantis has spoken. Hey, first of all, he's got neo-Nazis helping him out in this state. He has spoken at racist conferences. He's accepted a contribution and would not return it from someone who referred to the former president of the United States as a Muslim, Nigger. When asked to return that money, he said no. He's using that money to now fund negative ads. Now, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm simply saying the racists believe he's a racist.
That's how it's done. It is Friday, October 26, 2018. It is our pre-Halloween show. Whoa. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week I talk to our Capitol muckraker-in-chief, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. Today's show, bombs, not jobs. That's the new Republican rallying cry ahead of the 2018 midterm election. The MAGA bomber has now targeted at least a dozen high-profile Democrats and Trump critics. Found out about Cory Booker and who else? James Clapper this morning. Trump refuses to give up his personal iPhone, and now the Chinese and Russians are listening in, according to the New York Times. Was this really a blunder, or is it a strategy? I'll get into that. And surprise, 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 Richard Spencer is not just that fame-seeking white supremacist asshole trying to make Nazis cool again. No, he's also a wife-beater. And that's according to divorce documents filed by his wife, who is, incidentally, not the nicest person in the world. Turns out those social media-loving millennials are actually a hell of a lot better than their Gen X and baby boomer elders at distinguishing facts from opinions. Who knew? According to that's from a new study from Pew Research. And maybe that's why, according to an NBC Gen Forward poll, maybe that's why they found that 71% of millennials thinks it's time for a third party. That's going to be a nice little contentious discussion. I have an idea. And it looks like the specter is haunting the White House ahead of Halloween. And what's that going bump in the night at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? Socialism! That's right, socialism. Trump's Council of Economic Advisors releases an official report on the threat of socialism right before the midterms. They're scared. Ooh. And billionaires become 20% richer in 2017. That's right. According to a report by Swiss bank UBS, billionaires made more money in 2017 than in any year in recorded history. Got that? Democrats' confidence in a big blue wave is it's getting a little shaky. Doing some new polling. We'll talk about that. And opening arguments are scheduled on Monday for a watershed lawsuit against the Trump administration and the U.S. government, really, about climate change. 21 plaintiffs between the ages of 11 and 22 are claiming the government inaction is depriving them of their fundamental constitutional rights to freedom from deprivation of life, liberty, and property. Pretty cool. Getting that. Today's PA focus, well, it's time to talk about it. Mike Turzai may actually lose his race against Emily Skopoff. I'm saying that nice and slow so it sinks in. And Scott Perry is fighting back against his "I don't want to pay him for about maternity care" comments and asked his opponents to release the tapes. And Scott Perry was the recent recipient of a shitload of money, too, as well, because he's in jeopardy of losing his seat. And the Pennsylvania Senate GOP Policy Committee invited Koch brother-affiliated organizations to talk about legislation to pursue in the post-Janus world. Just a little chat. Just going to get together among friends, chat. And blowing my mind and ramping up their frustration level are the gigantic signs I see all over every place about how the PSEA and the AFL-CIO have endorsed Republican Brian Fitzpatrick over Democrat Wallace in the PA1. So instead of organizing for power, we're going to look for the nice Republicans. Am I getting that right? And the UN IPCC report was released earlier this month. According to that, well, we've got 12 years to dramatically reduce our carbon emissions to avoid catastrophe. You wouldn't know that in this year's PA gubernatorial race, despite the fact that PA is the third largest carbon emitter among all the states. Wouldn't know it. Crickets, 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 Governor Wolf. And today, in today's last call, I got some cool news. I got my copy of Unruly Rhetorics, Protest, Persuasion, and Publics in the mail this week. I've got an article in that. Yep, it's a collection. It's been a long time coming. You've heard me talk a little bit about it before. My article is called We Are Not All in This Together, a case for advocacy, factionalism, and making the political personal. It's all there, along with some amazing, amazing writing. And the bonus of the week was that Rachel Riedner and Gordon Matler from down in GW University, George Washington University, interviewed my friend and comrade Seth Kahn down at Westchester University, he and I, about the Abscuff strike from 2016. And that interview just got published in Labor and Academic Labor this week. So check that out too as well. Go over a couple new dual can releases this week at Free Will. And, we'll see what else we've got that we can pull out, because who knows? Because there's going to be news breaking during our recording today. I want to remind everybody, tune into the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org. You can also tune in on the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. I want to thank all of our members who have continually supported us here at Raging Chicken Press and Raging Chicken Radio and Out the Coop Podcast, however you want to say it. Because we know if you want that progressive future, you need the progressive media. And you can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken Press for as little as $5 a month. Just go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level today. Patreon.com/rcpress. Last week, got to announce that Maryland had joined us at the $5 a month level. Why don't you step up and become that person this week? I've been having to listen to the pledge drives at WHYY all week long, and I'm sure some of the people listening to this have had to listen to that. Well, instead of kind of funding middle-of-the-road milquetoast news, why don't you actually kind of like put your money where the fight back is, right here at Raging Chicken Radio. Become a member at patreon.com/rcpress. Oh, the midterms, they are just, 11 days away right now. So become a member now. We need you. So, Sean, man, it's kind of getting boring saying that, holy crap, what a week. But here we are again.
For the record,
I
did not get any suspicious mail packages in the mail this week.
Yeah, everybody's really worried about that.
Hey, it's something I think about from time to time.
Yeah, no, I hear you, especially since some of the choice pictures that you've taken of from our the armed friends from the right.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But, boy, who would have thought that right-wing rhetoric can lead to domestic terrorism from the right wing?
No, Sean, you got it all wrong. It's the media.
Yeah.
Problem.
Yeah, the media.
Did you hear Trump? He clarified the whole thing. It wasn't all the crap that comes out that he's spewing at all these little rallies that he's doing. It wasn't
fake news.
It's just the media actually causes the divisiveness.
Yeah, it's the Lugenpress.
It's the Lugenpress. That's correct.
Yeah,
that is correct. Well, so far we know that there's been at least 12 explosive devices that were mailed to prominent Democrats, law enforcement authority, or Democrats and critics of Trump. So let's just run down the list here. So far it's been Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, former CIA director John Brennan, although that was sent to CNN, although he doesn't work there. He's a commentator for NBC, not CNN, but potatoes, I guess, right? California Democrat Maxine Waters received 2. Florida's Democratic Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz got a package. But that one was tricky because it was addressed to Eric Holder, went to the wrong address. But a whole bunch of these bombs had her address on the return address, so it was sent back to her, even though she was never sent by her, as far as we know for now.
I think I want to do that one time, put the actual return address to where I want to send the mail to.
Yeah.
And just not put any stamps on there so I can, send mail that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it works. It works out like a very short period of time. I don't know. One of the reasons they discovered that these bombs apparently were coming out of Florida is because the post office actually takes pictures and tracks all of its packages that kind of move through here. So once again, you got publicly like a public institution like the U.S. Post Office is the number one lead, right? I mean, because they do their job so well. But then you also have, it all started out with the bomb that was at George Soros's mailbox in his home in Bedford, New York. Former Vice President Joe Biden got 2 packages sent his way. Robert De Niro, who basically said "fuck Trump" right in front of everybody, he got one. And just this morning, we find out that Cory Booker and James Clapper were also recipients of them. And the FBI are warning that there may be additional packages in the mail. So don't count yourself out yet, Sean.
Thanks.
But this is, I mean, look, these pipe bombs are mostly pipe bombs that have been sent out. It doesn't look like this person had a ton
any bomb making experience,
right? Well, or at least. Well, here's the thing, right? You don't know if this is just someone who's wanting to, first time pipe bomb maker, wannabe bomb maker, sending these things out and just not doing a very thorough job in order to kind of wiring these things up and everything. Or they're purposely set up not to explode at this point, but just serve as a threat. But then you don't know what's going to happen down the road, right? You don't know, because people very experienced bomb makers can make fake bombs and make them look fake purposely. But this is a clear escalation in the kind of political violence that really.
This is like the political violence on the right. We saw last week with the Proud Boy incident, and with more white nationalists going on trial for stuff that's happened in California and Charlottesville and what we saw in New York City. There is no equivalency here between what Maxine Waters is saying or Mitch McConnell not being able to eat his fucking meals.
Well, look, that's pretty serious though, Sean. I mean, food gets cold, Sean. Did
you see what Chuck Schumer tweeted about this week?
No.
He tweeted about vandalism, about a brick going through a GOP window, and he juxtaposed it with the bombs being sent out the other day, and basically saying that we can't have this political violence from the left or the right.
Fuck him. I swear to God, that guy is at.
I think vandalism is wrong. I'm not advocating for vandalism. Right? I mean, I have never defaced anything. I might have put stickers on stuff, but I've never vandalized anything, and I think that's wrong.
You're a better person than I am.
But I think that there's no fucking equivalency here between throwing a brick through a window and sending a bomb to someone in the mail.
But what it is too, what drives me crazy about this, Sean, is it removes it, takes these incidents out of any context whatsoever, and so you get these 2 pictures of two acts that are threatening or destructive or or directly violent, and you act as if they are just occurrences on their own, and you look at them out of any context. The fact is that the right wing in this country has been ramping up its organized violence, right, and plant and hatred and campaigns of destruction and threats for years now. That has not happened on the left. Right, so you got a big protest, and some kind of black-clad anarchist throws a brick through a Starbucks window. Right, it's not as if there's this movement on the left that has been building and is supported by billion-dollar media infrastructures, right, and billion-dollar donors, right, in order to support this kind of neo-fascist thing. It's not like that.
Yeah,
it is on the right. These are not equivalents. Jesus Christ, it kills me.
Yeah, and this is. I just wanted to bring that up.
Now my blood pressure's. I missed that by Schumer. I did not see that by Schumer. Otherwise, I would I would have been raging about this when we were before.
Yeah, no, he put it up in a tweet earlier in the week.
That's what I'm going to say right now. I'm done with him. I've been done with him for a while, to be honest. I'm like, whatever. Not like I was holding out hope, anyways. But I mean, really, that has got to be, once we get this new Congress, hopefully that this we're going to get a takeover of the House at the very least. That the progressives on there have got to push hard to get Schumer out. So, I don't know, crazy. So one of the things that, speaking of white nationalists, is that, look, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because, I mean, duh. Richard Spencer, right? Now documents are now out that his wife is seeking a divorce. And it turns out that Richard Spencer is not just an asshole like in the world, but is also a horrible human being and violent woman
beater.
Right, exactly.
I think I would be more surprised
if he wasn't.
If he was a nice person to women. He treat women with respect and dignity.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, like, it pretty much like also falls in line with the whole entire this organized violence on the right, this white nationalist movement, this Proud Boy movement, the Gamergate stuff. It's all based in like racist, sexist misogyny.
That's right. So we're gonna say this again, and we've said this multiple times on this podcast. This is what toxic masculinity is all about. Now, let me be clear about this. Right, toxic masculinity doesn't mean that all men are horrible. Right. My friend Colleen Clemens is basically, she always say like hashtag not all men. Right. And it sucks to even have to freaking say that because whatever, we can get into the whole other thing there. But this is what it is. So let me just give you an example. So this is from The Guardian about this. It says the wife of the white nationalist Richard Spencer has accused him of emotional and physical abuse, including choking her, dragging her by her hair, and attempting to punch her while she was pregnant, according to divorce filings by Flathead County District Court in Montana. Quote, one of Spencer's favorite statements to me, this is her speaking, was, quote, the only language women understand is violence. Spencer's wife, Nina Kupralova, alleged in divorce filings, she claimed that he called her genetically defective and a parasite, and that he verbally abused her in front of their young daughter. Quote, I'm famous and you are not. I'm important and you are not, is the kind of thing that he would say to her. And then he'd get drunk and then he'd beat her. Right. And now let's be clear. She is also, right, if not straight up 100% white nationalist, definitely white nationalist friendly.
Yeah, I mean,
put it at that. So it's not. So I'm not kind of saying like, welcome to the resistance, right? I mean, that kind of bullshit move, right? But let's be clear. That doesn't matter in terms of what is going on here. Like it's Spencer, and that really is at the core. White nationalism is also white patriotic or patriarchal nationalism, right? That's at the core of it. It's a very hierarchical structure that is based in violence and abuse, and
the women stay home, cook the meals, and do nothing else.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's enough airtime. The only other thing I have to say about that is the awesome GIF that's been circulating with Gritty punching Richard Spencer in the face. I got to say about that one. Yes, so hopefully that'll awesome. Give this some more traction, right? So cool. I do want to mention this too as well, that so you may have seen these reports, right, about Trump. This well, I'm going to put this in the file of like, okay, people, this is how we make sense of these things. Okay, get past the outrage for a second. Get past the Trump's incompetent for a second. So, New York Times reported on Wednesday, something like this, that Trump is basically refused to give up his personal iPhones, right? And the story comes out as the reason why his aides keep on saying, "Give it, Donald. Please give us the phone." And he goes, "No." Right? It's give us a phone. It's a security risk. He goes, "No, mine." And then they want to take it apart. And then he gets really, really mad and blah, blah, blah. So he wants to keep it. And apparently because he can save his contacts in that one and he can't in the other one. Right? That's how the story gets circulated. Right? And there's more people emerging that are speaking off the record inside that are trying to save us, blah, 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 by telling us about what's going on with this. Because now the national security agencies are finding that the Chinese and Russians are able to listen in on that phone. Right. So he's having private conversations with quote unquote private conversations with some of his friends and his confidants and things like this about his strategies. And the Chinese and the Russians are now they think they've established ways of actually now manipulating him based upon this quote unquote private information. Right now, I'm just going to put this out there. I'm going to leave this on this podcast. You guys can do with this what you will. But as I was thinking about this, I'm like, this is not what's going on. If you recall, one of the things that was happening as part of the Mueller investigation was that Jared, right, and a bunch of other folks were seeking a back channel with the Russians, right? They wanted a way to kind of circumvent the kind of national security and other checks on these kind of conversations with these other oligarchs and autocrats. I have got this bug. I can't let it go because it just says like, what if this is not just Trump being incompetent or stupid or all this stuff? What if this is the back channel? What if you are using an iPhone, right, knowing that these other folks are on the line? Because now you can technically wash your hands of it. It says, I didn't talk to these people, but you're able to convey information, able to convey a strategy and coordinate and collaborate with both Russians and Chinese outside of the kind of traditional passive communication. Now, I am being 100% upfront about this. I have nothing to base this on in terms of like evidence. It's just got this. I can't let it go because something about it is nagging at me that something like this would make sense given how the Trump administration has behaved in the past. So just kind of stick a pin in that one. We'll leave it here. We're going to see where this goes because I've got a real bad feeling about this. And it's not because like our president doesn't understand that's a security risk. No. Maybe he understands that there's ways that you can have plausible deniability, right? And get around the people that you consider as standing in your way. So just keeping that there. I don't know what you think about that, Sean, but it's like, I don't know. I don't know.
It's almost like something like Star Trek or the X-Files.
Dude, look, I can see it happening, right? I mean, he's met with Putin. He's met with these people outside, like individually with nobody else in the room and all this other kinds of stuff. I mean, I could totally see that happening. Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if I was the mob and I wanted some other people to kind of know about some of my business, but I could not actually, I didn't want any record of me contacting them directly. This would be an easy way to do it. Just saying. Everyone's in on the game. All right. So we got to get into this. So one, I thought it was just like a cool fact, right? Millennials are better at kind of telling facts from opinions, right? Because if you're in my business and higher education, right, you hear lots of people hem and haw about kind of like young people today that is to believe whatever's on the internet. Turns out, sorry, not true, right? It's the people that do not have the experience like with the internet and have not have experience that are not digital natives that have the problem. Connected with that, however, was another poll that came out that's been saying that 71% of millennials think it's time for a third party. And I know that you are 100% behind that, right, Sean?
Oh, absolutely. So earlier this week, I was getting into an argument on Facebook where all arguments must take place and should take place.
Because it's a record then.
Yeah. But like, basically like, someone said, like, you know, only 40-some% of millennials are planning on voting this election, which I think that's a good thing. Because if you get 40, that's usually what the turnout is for low turnout for midterm elections.
Yep.
Like, if you get 50% of millennials turning out, that's, like, really stunning to do that in an off-year election. And, like, one of my arguments was that, you know, Democrats should start taking millennial issues more seriously if they want it, because, like, millennials are going to be the future of the party. And people were retorting that, well, 71% millennials want a third party. And like, but it's almost in a way of like instant gratification, like as a vehicle, either to vote for Greens or as like, boom, we're going to start a new party. And within a couple election cycles, we're going to take over the world, which is just impossible. Right. For me, this is more of a branding issue, a branding problem with the Democrats. That like they should look at this and like, okay, well, you know, if we want to win over millennials, like we have to start like pandering to them and taking on the issues that they care about, like universal health care, which is becoming a huge thing within the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. Like what, 51% of Pennsylvanians support Medicare for some version of Medicare for all.
Right.
Like, I mean, it takes years of pushing to finally get the party to switch on this. And you do it from within. And like, like student loan debt reform is going to be something else the Democrats are going to take up soon, because it'll just be stupid if they don't.
Yeah.
But
this is the argument all you reformists make.
But no, like I do not believe that, like we were talking about this before. It'll take decades for a party like that to gain root within the country. But we're already seeing gains being made within the Democratic Party by electing DSA members and socialists, self out and out socialists, like to the party. And we are starting to form our own left coalition within the Democratic Party, more left than the progressives. And we're doing a really good job at changing the debate. Abolishing ICE is becoming an issue that, some senators are taking up, which started in the wing of this DSA wing of that party, or the DSA movement, or the socialist movement, like outside of the Democratic Party. And you see like Medicare for all becoming a actual popular agenda item within the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you got to win. You don't have to win over all Democrats to vote for it. Just win over enough to make it happen.
Right. So let me, this is actually one of these important political discussions, right? And importance in terms of thinking about political strategy and tactics in the real world, right? When you're talking about politics as not as, voting as a personal expression of your moral purity, but as a tactical move in building power. These are different things, right? If all I care about is me and me feeling good and me being able to kind of say, hey, I did the right thing and with the right
and vote for the Green Party,
even though, or whatever, right? And end up, not winning, right? And then you're okay with that. Then that's one thing. But if you're actually, care about real policies in the real world and affecting those things, then you have to start kind of, getting your hands dirty, right? It's no longer about moral purity any longer. It's about strategies and tactics. Now, I know that there's going to be some people that will say, as long as you're inside the Democratic Party, you're always going to have that you're never going to have this because the Democratic machine will always take it over. I would argue that there has been, up until now, there has not been a concerted, sustained effort to push the party and push the party to the left, right? There has been it's been a slow move in the other direction, right? The slow move in the other direction has been the concerted effort by those folks in the political center and the market fundamentalists in the Democratic Party that have wanted to kind of move the party away from its working class roots, right? So that's step one. So step two is, look, I'll put this on the record, and I want, if anybody, do not take this out of context. I want to be clear. I am not 100% opposed to a third party, right? I'm not, right? However, what I mean by that is not what I mean like, okay, go out and vote for a Green Party. No, it means this, right? It means that any time that if you actually wanted to have a kind of a progressive a third party, the way to do that within our institutions, right, is within, exactly as Sean was saying, within the Democratic Party.
Like, look at the Democratic Labor Farmers Party out in Minnesota.
Exactly, right? And have that faction where you're constantly organizing and getting candidates to run and building a critical mass inside the Democratic Party. And then once you're approaching that critical mass, that's the point at which it becomes a real question about whether to calve off, like icebergs do, right? To calve off and join with other movement forces and form that third party. Right, because then you've already established institutional kind of like strength, right? Or you ultimately win the argument inside the party and you take it over. And now I already hear the naysayers say, well, that's never going to happen. Okay, fine. But you don't know that until you've actually reached that point.
And also another thing I think about this, like looking at this poll, it's like there's been no concerted effort to organize college students and millennials into voting, and there's no organizing going on until this year, really, with Next Gen America. I mean, Next Gen is doing phenomenal work. I mean, they registered like 7,000 students, college students, out in the Pittsburgh area.
Right.
They're organizing hundreds of students on the Apache campuses throughout the state. like that's where like one of the things that like really pisses me off, like that one MSNBC segment, like that swarmy, nerdy looking guy with the glasses going up to college students. Well, what issues do you care? And he, are you registered to vote? And they use that whole entire like segment as like a broad based generalization. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yep. And they're just using that as like a broad based generalization of millennials in general. And it's like you're ignoring the whole entire point what's going on. Exactly. Like you're using that segment to set millennials up for failure at this point.
Exactly. But you know what?
And it's scapegoating, and it's like saying that we're like, you're completely ignoring the fact that there's a lot of great work going on within the Democratic Party, you know, organizing Penn State campus within Next Gen, within the
Student Power Network. Look what the
Student Power Network. Like, I mean, like there's organizing going on, and you have to fund that stuff.
Right. So here's a couple things on this, right? Number one, for if you're a millennial, right, when you see segments like that on MSNBC, right, don't get defeated. You should be expecting that. You should be expecting the fact that these outdated institutions, right, are going to read you in that way, right? They always have.
Yeah.
Right? So again, if the target is like fingers crossed, hoping the people in power are going to kind of understand your issues and are going to accurately represent them, that's a fool's errand. You just got to just say, okay, this is what they're going to do. So we're going to put our energy into the organizing. And that's what, again, Next Gen, just like you said, Next Gen is done. That's what PA Student Power Next was doing. Yesterday on the Majority Report, they had Nick Guthman from co-founder of a group called Our Blue Future, that were a group of college students who basically said what we've been talking about like extensively on this show was that the group of college students at American University said, you know what? There is no network on the left that actually invests and provides funding, right, and training for the next generation of political activists and politicians. So we're going to do it. So instead of sitting back and crying that it's not happening, say we're going to do this.
And you look at like Emerge in Pennsylvania, all the Emerge candidates, the women candidates that are running, most of them are millennial women that are running for office, right, and that are that may end up winning, like Lindsey Williams, Katie Muth, Erin O'Mara, like. There's a handful right there. There's plenty of women. Right. Sarah Namorado.
Look what DSA has done. Look what DSA has done. Look at what Our Revolution has done. That's where the energy should be. So like MSNBC, right? It is in terms of broadcast or cable news, right? It's the best we got out there, right? Now that's not saying much. Right? Because it's cable news, right? And that's that institutions. You have to expect those to be trailing institutions. In other words, they're going to have to be dragged kicking and screaming into the future, right? Because they're based in a mindset that is not kind of like focused on the ground, right? We could argue about maybe Chris Hayes is a little bit better on this stuff, but at least Michael Moore was on last night once again. But the idea is that the focus is going to be the organizing on the ground. And the fact that the millennials are the largest generation, right? And that you're only now starting to have an institutional impact. And that impact is going to be so fundamentally different and groundbreaking if it continues in the direction that it's going right now, that it's going to drag these institutions in the future. So there's a practical reason why right now the work inside the Democratic Party to bust that party open or to get to a critical mass where you're capable of breaking, that's going to take 20 years, 10 years maybe, like if there's major crisis, 20 years, right? After, we're no action on climate change and cities start to flood, maybe that's going to be the wake-up call. We'll see. But that's going to be the point. So millennials are positioned to do this. You've got the numbers, right? And you've got the energy and you're putting it into organizing. I wish there was that level of stuff with my generation. There's not. You guys are it, man.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents on this. I think that it's good. And so this goes back to that 71% of millennials think it's time for a third party. That's data from a poll, right? And so it doesn't mean, therefore, the conclusion is go feel good about yourself and vote for a third party now. No, because there's no infrastructure, right? It's just you're living in your own world and you're doing that at this point. So what you want to do is that you want to say, okay, that's good news. It means there's a lot of millennials that are ripe for organizing and for transforming the Democratic Party. That's what that means. right? And that's what should happen. And so I don't think about it like, because I could care less about the Democratic Party for the sake of the Democratic Party. Right. I'm thinking, practically speaking, given the system that we have. And yes, I would love a parliamentary system. We don't have it. Right. You want a parliamentary system? The question is, how do you get it? What kind of laws need to be passed? Right. How do you get those laws passed? Right. Is it by voting for someone that you like and that is most close to you ideologically? Or is it, getting into a situation where you can actually pass those laws? So we can think abstractly all we want. The concrete is where my head is at, and this is the way it tends to go. And I think that same poll that people want to cite as a way of saying, see, I told you so. This poll is like, this is the best news I could have gotten this week.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same reason, right? Because what we saw with the DSA victories and everything like this, even within our state, that you got the White House kind of running scared from socialism at this point.
Shook. They're shook.
I thought, did you see that report?
I did not read the report. I've seen the analysis on it, and like Vox and like other when Vox is like putting out, the White House is actually making the case for socialism and universal health care. It's like, it's like, I did not see the report. Let me guess, it's like giant red baiting. It's just like,
look, here's the beginning of the introduction. Okay, you ready? Coincided with the 200th anniversary of Karl Marx's birth, socialism is making a comeback in American political discourse. And given the fact that most Americans don't read past the first sentence or two, they've just given us a win. Right?
And you know who really like spawned this like rebirth in socialism in the United States?
Barack Obama?
No, it's Gritty.
It's Gritty. Gritty did it, man. Gritty did it.
We all thank Gritty.
Yeah, I mean, the report is like, it's actually a kind of a fun read, right? And you could tell who's writing it, right? And the fact that, look, you don't put how many pages? It's 72-page report. Right.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to get it right on that. I'll read it over the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to read it. Totally. I mean, I've read most of it, but it's 72-page report, and you don't put energy into a 72-page report unless you're actually concretely worried that this is going to happen, right? Or you're a complete nut job and you're off the rails. And look, frankly, in this administration, I mean, it's a toss up.
It's like one or the other.
It's got to be one or the other, right? I mean, but
the one thing about like this that's so amazing, it's like the Pennsylvania Republican Party is really doing a masterclass on this.
Yeah,
like they're using socialism to the point this campaign where it's diluting the actual meaning of the term socialism. So like I mean, like the Republicans have been like affixed. I'm hearing the word socialism for like 30 years now, but like, and so the rest of the public like just doesn't give a shit at this point, because it's like, yeah, socialism. They want free healthcare for everyone. Well, what's your what's your alternative? Healthcare for no one. Die in the street.
Right.
Like literally what Alan Grayson said. Die in the street. That's their alternative. Or socialist healthcare. Like, you are just helping our cause at this point.
Totally. And you look at it right now. Here's the great thing about
it. It's like free advertising.
It is number one, and it's the number one. You see what's happening right now across the country in terms of these kind of right-wing Republican Tea Party candidates. Is that one, people like the vast majority of people say the number one issue that they're voting on for the midterms
is healthcare.
Right. And so you basically have these Tea Party Republicans who have voted about 70 times to try to repeal Obamacare.
Saying that they're all for it now.
Right. Exactly. You've got Scott Walker out there in Wisconsin, right, who's basically led the charge on kind of the attacks on Obamacare, now campaigning, saying that he's protecting pre-existing conditions.
You got Scott Perry of all people.
Well, no, but you have Scott Walker as being one of the lead plaintiffs in a lawsuit, right, to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, right? So, I mean, they're just lying through their teeth right now. So that's the number one. And number two, if you look at this report, right, they cite a bunch of statistics and studies by the Mercatus Center, right? Mercatus Center at George Mason University. Now, you've probably heard us talk about this on the show before, but the Mercatus Center is a Koch brothers funded economic policy propaganda wing located
State Policy Network group.
Right, exactly. So that's what Mercatus Center is, right? So here was the problem, right? They do this thing every time. It's called the Freedom Network, the Freedom Study or something like this. And they had started to look at Finland and look at the Nordic states, right? Because that's the big target. Everyone wants to say, all the people on the left love Scandinavia because they have all this great, these great ideas, and they have good education, and they have housing, and they have all this stuff, but they wanted to go attack it. But turns out even the Mercatus Center rated like Finland and the Nordic countries, Scandinavian countries as like some of the highest on its freedom, scale, right? And freedom for them means freedom of markets. That's it, right? So not only did you have innovation, like Angry Birds, for example, right? You have innovation, you have like free markets, lots of small businesses. You also had healthcare, education, and guess what? Ranks at the top on the World Happiness Index, right? So even these studies that like this report tries to cite, the White House report tries to cite about against socialism, is like their own people can't even come up with the numbers to demonstrate what they want to say. So that's really good news. That's really good news. So good fun. Just to kind of reemphasize that kind of stuff, do check out the links about the new report from Swiss Bank UBS about the how billionaires became 20% richer in 2017.
Socialism.
Just in case you ever needed a reminder that this is one of the greatest periods of wealth inequality in the history of the world. Go check out that report for that reminder. And I want to kind of close. Well, let me close down two things then real quick. One, also check out, there's a really cool, we'll see, the White House and the administration is trying to push back on this, so this might not happen, but you may have heard tell about this. There's a group of 21 kind of young folks, right, between the ages of 11 and 22, who are suing the Trump administration and the U.S. government for their failure to act on climate change. And this comes especially in the wake of the pulling out of the Paris Accord. So there's been a bunch of legal kind of back and forth about kind of this lawsuit going forward. But this is a major strategic push forward, right? You're basically saying that, look, we as 11 to 22 year olds, well, again, they're 22, but, again, say you're able to vote now, but you're basically, because of your lack of representation, the policies that the folks that are in power right now are basically ripping apart their future by failing to act on climate change. And so they're suing on those grounds. And this is a fascinating case, right? Some of the constitutional questions that are going to be raised here are if it's able to go forward, is going to be fascinating. But it's scheduled to start on Monday. So I'm going to be following this case really closely because it's I just wanted to kind of put that on everybody's kind of awareness spectrum, especially since we're getting so close to the midterm. Stuff like this can fly its way out. Last thing I want to say, Sean, is that there's been some nervousness that has begun to emerge about the blue wave for the midterms. Now, I know that you're pretty kind of you're kind of a booster for the blue wave, right? That you think it's going to happen, and you're pretty much there. I'm a bit more of the kind of the wet towel on this one, not because that has nothing to do with data on my end. It has to do with a gut sense of like, I don't trust the confidence, right? I think that something could be looking more, but some new polls have basically have emerged this past week that are showing that the Senate may be completely off the table. And the House is getting, those races are tightening even more at this point, to the point where there's questions about whether or not the Democrats are going to be able to kind of take the House. So I'm curious your take on this stuff.
I'm still looking at the 538 House forecast, and it has the Democrats winning. So that's all I care about.
What's the percentage at this point?
What's that?
You know what the percentages are at this point?
85%.
85%.
I don't see the. I don't see massive voter suppression to like beat back the gains in the House that are going to be made. But I mean, I'm of the mindset that Democrats have been waiting for this day since 2016, and I think a lot of them are going to come out and vote. I mean, I don't see them winning the Senate. Like, that was just going to be a tough gain anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, like, the organizing and the door knocking that's been going on, like especially out here in central Pennsylvania and other parts of the state, I mean, there is a large concerted effort to knock on doors. In a couple of America Votes phone calls this past summer, and no, like there is tons of money being dumped into operations to knock on doors, and that's what ultimately is I think going to pull it out.
Yeah. So here, this is kind of I'll tell you why I'm kind of two minds of this at this point, right? When I see all the stuff that you just talked about, the door knocking and everything like this, connected with the polls, that is what was lacking in 2016. In 2016, there was all this data and this polling that was had Hillary Clinton way out in front, right, and looked like it was going to be a shoo-in. But when you started talking, you hearing what was happening on the ground, there was not the operations on the ground that needed to be there. Like
this year,
yeah,
I would say since the summertime, I've had like 3 or 4 door knocks to go out and vote since the summertime.
Yep,
I had nothing in 2016.
Right. Well, and this is kind of the idea is that what you see, and there's early voting has already begun in kind of several states like Georgia. I forget what other states. There's a whole bunch of states, like 20 some odd states that do early voting. And there was a report, Rachel Maddow show the other night, basically we're breaking down, maybe it was last night actually, breaking down the early voting totals, and basically found that at this point right now, they've already, in like the second or third day of early voting, they've already surpassed the total early vote from the last midterm election. And the turnout now is approaching presidential election cycle, like 2016 cycle amounts.
And so also a lot of things, like a lot of like organizations and, parties are basing their turnout on the 2014 model, which is one of the lowest turnouts in the post-war era.
Right.
And I think that's just that's just completely inaccurate. To be basing your models off of the previous midterm, considering that it's a midterm and it's new president and people are motivated to vote. There wasn't really a voter enthusiasm in 2014.
No, right. Yeah. And we've talked about different versions of this before too, as well, about that measure. But by that same token, right, you can see people who have been like saying, look at how much the turnout is up, and kind of pointing it to 2014, then that's kind of that those numbers aren't exactly hard numbers. You know what I mean? I mean, they're a little bit, you got to take that into consideration. But the door knocking and the organization is that the kind of stuff that I look at this as you know what? The polling is going to underrepresent that kind of organization, right? So there's part of me that feels like, oh, actually, this is going to be bigger than the polling even suggests. Precisely because those people who are actually doing the organizing and the people that are kind of getting mobilized to vote aren't counted in those polls. Just as that part. The other part of me is just about that feeling before 2016, about like 2 days before the election. I remember saying like, okay, all right, I guess I've got to accept the fact Hillary Clinton's going to win, right? Because all the polls are going to put, okay, this should work out. And
but I don't have that sense of security. Like, we were talking about like in the lead up to 2016 that like, she might actually screw this up.
Yeah.
And she did. They did. Like, I don't have that feeling like,
yep, as
I did in 2016.
Yep. So if I put it like pretty high that they're going to take the House if I'm kind of using just my head. But I got that nagging gut feeling too as well that knows that some of the voter suppression and some of the intimidation tactics that are going on could have an impact beyond what we know. So we'll see. Anyways, anything else in kind of national news, Sean?
No.
All right. Well, we're gonna go into the Pennsylvania focus, and I just want to remind everybody, if you get a chance, support us. Right. Just go to patreon.com/rcpress, become a member of Raging Chicken for as little $5 a month. Patreon.com/rcpress, and choose your membership level today. We'll be right back with our PA focus, and oh, is it fun again?
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1837. That was the day that Louisa Lee Schuyler was born in New York City. She was dedicated to the causes of public health and welfare, especially for the poor. This led her to help found the Bellevue Training School for Nurses in 1873. It was the first nurses' school in the United States based on the principles of Florence Nightingale, the English social reformer who established modern nursing practices. Louisa had become concerned with the conditions found at the city's public hospitals. Along with 3 other women, she toured Bellevue Hospital, finding poor lighting, dire sanitary conditions, and even a laundry that had run out of soap. The women wrote up a report about their findings. They made the case that a professionally trained nursing staff would help remedy the situation. The work of women during the Civil War had shown the potentially important role of nurses in providing medical care. The women's request was approved on a trial basis at Bellevue. Bellevue Hospital had opened its doors in 1736, making it the oldest continually running public hospital in the United States. The first class of nurses included just 6 women. Early training focused on improving sanitary conditions at the hospital and seeing to patient comfort. But instruction grew quickly to include basic medical training. By 1879, enrollment had grown to more than 60 trainees. Proud of their accomplishments, graduates wore a school pin. Designed by Tiffany & Company, the pin portrayed a crane in the middle of a wreath of poppies. The school operated for nearly a century, until the training program was incorporated into Hunter College. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. It's our PA focus, and man, the midterms are right around the corner. We got 11 days to the midterms, and man, Pennsylvania is front and center in any chance for the Democrats to take back the House. But man, just what's happening inside the state, right, is freaking nuts, man.
So there is a crazy conspiracy, or not conspiracy theory, but there's a crazy scenario out there that the House Democrats, Pennsylvania Democrats, may take back the House. And so there's a couple of things I'm hearing.
Okay, number one, are you the one who is the author of this conspiracy theory?
I am not. I am not. I've heard from a few people in Harrisburg.
A few people that are kind of the dark corners, and they're like, Psst, John. No, go ahead, sorry.
They think that Pennsylvania Democrats can potentially get within 100 to like 101 of like in the House. There's 203 seats. So they can get like 100 to 101. And they think that they can get 2 Republicans to defect over and give Democrats the House if it gets that close, that narrow. There are a couple of Republicans willing to switch parties and caucus with the Democrats for the next couple of years and give control of the House to the Democrats.
Whoa.
So
so here's the question. Why is it a conspiracy theory?
It's not a conspiracy. Well, because it has to. So this maybe happened a couple of times, like in the state's history.
It involved aliens?
Well, the last time it was like this close, I was in 2006 or 2008, right after the pay raise scandal. And the Democrats were in control of the House, but a couple switched over, caucus with the Republicans, and they settled on Denny O'Brien being the House Speaker, who was like a moderate Republican out of the Philadelphia area. There might be this situation playing out right now. At the time, DeWeese was the House Speaker. DeWeese went to jail for some time over the, I guess, bonus gate and stuff like that, or computer gate. But so the thing is, there's enough Republicans who are pissed off at Mike Turzai as a way of getting back at him, willing to switch parties and give the House Democrats control of the House if it gets that close. But there's also something we should start talking about.
Oh, do tell.
Mike Turzai can actually lose his race.
Dun, dun, dun! So we got two really interesting things going on here, right? So then one...
First of all, like there are people in Harrisburg.
Turzai figures in both of these then, right? So on the one, that scenario, that kind of, whether we want to call it wishful thinking or possibility or looking at it.
So there are people like, it's starting to creep around that like the House might be a lot closer. There might be more gains in the State House than people have been initially thinking. Like we've said 15 seats that I would think they'd pick up, right? They would need like close to 20 to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And this talk is starting to creep in with some people who I trust and I've known out here for the past 4 years now. So like the expectations among some in Harrisburg are a lot higher than what others were expecting initially. Which means it's going to they're thinking it's going to be a bloodbath for House Republicans in the state. In the Senate, I've been hearing that like all the Republicans in the Senate are trailing in the Southeast within the margin of error, and a couple of one runaway is going to be San Ysidro. Marguerite Quinn's pretty much been triaged by the party at this point, and then Katie Muth I hear is up by like 5 points in her poll. Which Katie Muth is a Democrat who did not get endorsed by the AFL-CIO or any of the other major unions. They all endorsed Rafferty, who was one of the first Republicans in Pennsylvania to endorse Donald Trump back in 2016, 2015.
Yep.
So there's that.
Another example of like labor shooting itself in the foot. Just going to put that there for now.
And then so like the other thing is that Mike Turzai may actually lose his seat outright. So Mike Turzai's district overlaps with Lindsey Williams' Senate district, who we were talking about, right? So there was a popular Republican, Volakovich. He lost the primary to Jeremy Schaefer, who's a Tea Party, like really conservative, Tea Party type Republican. Volakovich was pretty conservative, but was someone who's still like one of these good government conservatives that would still bring home the bacon to that area and stuff like that, who was a reliable Republican, very well liked police officer, who became a state senator. And Schaefer pissed off the party by primarying him and taking him out in an election because he's far to the right than most of the other conservatives in that area. Lindsey Williams looks like she's poised to win. She's running on a pro-labor ticket out there. And then, on top of that, Turzai's district also overlaps with Connor Lamb. And Connor Lamb is just running up the score right now, like on Keith Rothfuss. Lamb, again, is running a very heavy pro-labor, pro-worker, pro-union type of campaign. I mean, that's how he beat Saccone, and he's doing it again. And he's really popular. The Lamb family is a political dynasty in the Pittsburgh area. And, if the stars align properly, Mike Turzai may lose to Emily Skopoff, and that's going to be huge.
That'd be just like,
I'll be dancing on the grave.
Seriously, that'll be like the shot heard around the state too, as well. I mean, that'll be the
if Turzai ends up losing, it's over for them. Like they're done.
Man. Well, that would be just freaking amazing. Because remember, he was like voter ID done. Right, getting Mitt Romney elected in Pennsylvania. Right, the tip of the spear for voter suppression in the state of Pennsylvania.
And there are a lot of people out in Western PA knock on every single door possible in those districts for Connor Lamb, Skopoff, and for Lindsey Williams. Like, you just look at some of the things in an open primary seat this year amongst Democrats. Democratic women challenging men have won 8 out of 11 times or 9 out of 11 times.
Man, I'm telling you.
So and I remember meeting Emily Skopoff back in the Progressive Summit, and she said, I'm running against Mike Turzai, and I'm going to win.
Yeah, that's pretty much what she said.
And you know what? She may end up doing it.
Yep.
So supposedly she's running a really great campaign out there. She's doing everything right. And, it's starting to get the attention of a lot of people out in Western PA. There's a lot of energy around her, and she might actually end up winning. So that's it.
Yeah. I mean, she's a fantastic candidate, and I just, that's awesome. So here we go, folks. Get out there for Emily Skopoff. Please, please, please. Let's get Turzai out. Oh my God, it'd be great. And like Sean said, it's not just about getting Turzai out. This is a woman that you can vote for. I mean, she's tough as nails, running a fantastic campaign. and she's got the energy that man, holy cow!
Out in Western PA, heard this third hand. Basically, like over the summertime, events that would normally bring out 15 to 20 people in off year like midterm elections and stuff like this, for Skopoff and Lindsey Williams and the women out there running are bringing out like 150, 200 people.
Yep.
Like house parties and stuff like that. Like there is a lot of energy around the whole entire state. And this is why I think, this wave that's going to happen that will exceed expectations. Like there's a lot of energy out there. So
damn, you're doing your best to make me feel optimistic. I'm not going to resist it right now. I don't want to get comfortable. But then again, right down, like kind of right next door to where you're at now, right? Is like not only you got Turzai is not potentially kind of in the sights. Scott Perry is virtually running for his doing.
That is my district, man.
Exactly.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So last year, or 2017, right before Mother's Day, Scott Perry had indivisible groups there. And one of the things that came out of it is, I don't want to pay for maternity care. I'm done having kids. Yep. And now that has become that line is just becoming a political ad in itself. Like basically like George Scott is running campaign ads. I'm George Scott and I approve this message. And has Scott Perry going, I don't want maternity care. I'm done having kids. And like, I don't want to pay for maternity care. I am done having kids. And
that is on tape.
That is on, and it has Scott Perry to the point where he put up a Facebook video, like a cell phone video saying that like his political opponents are lying and they're doctoring these tapes. And, he's demanding them to release the tape, show the receipts. And the receipts are online. The 30-minute video is on Huffington Post verbatim. On YouTube, verbatim, and it is just like it's exactly what he says. So
there you go, man.
Again, it's another one of these Republicans who is trying to claim that he never went after pre-existing conditions and stuff like that.
There you have it, man. Well, not to change subjects too quickly, just like we said, there's probably going to be breaking news in today's show. There's an arrest that has been made in the bombing, right? In the suspect bombing. Federal authorities have arrested, this is according to CNN, have arrested a man in connection to the suspected explosive packages discovered this week. Justice Department announced Friday. Multiple law enforcement sources told CNN the suspect is a man in his 50s with a Ventura, Florida address and was arrested at a business in Plantation about 20 miles away in South Florida. He has a criminal history and his ties to New York, the official said. Additional details were not released. So that's a quick latest. Well, anyways, yeah, there you go, man. What would a recording session be without breaking news, Sean?
I know. It's been like this the past few weeks.
It's been nonstop. So so back to PA. So that's a big deal. Scott Perry, could go down. Let me ask you this then. So what's the status from your perspective of Jess King's race?
It's gonna be a really tough poll.
Yeah.
So if Jess King doesn't win, there's talk about her running for state senate in a couple of years and challenging Scott Martin.
Interesting.
Rumors like that swirling around. So,
because her campaign has been unbelievable.
Yeah, campaign's been unbelievable. It might be too heavy of a lift, but I mean, like, just that. No, she's the type of person that shows you that you can win if you put in the work to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I ask you about that campaign too, because I know it's been surprised. It's narrowed more than anybody would have called it. Right. Except people like you, of course, who were on the ground and saw what was actually happening in terms of the organizing of it. But it's like, it's been really, really fascinating to see the fact that how much she has closed that gap. And actually, again, you never know, right? You never know if that she'll be able to pull up there. But again, this is what it looks like when you actually invest on the ground in races, that you get the potential of Turzai getting booted out. You get Scott Perry kind of like fighting for his political career. And you get Jess King pulling in with a striking distance.
Mike Turzai has blocked Emily Skopoff on Twitter.
Oh, really now?
Yes. Sorry, I had to bring this up.
Is he legally able to do that?
I think his campaign account did.
His campaign account did, because was the whole?
He has a Rep Turzai, and then he has Mike Turzai.
What's that?
He has Rep Turzai, which is like his regular account, his state account, and Mike Turzai is his campaign account. And Emily Skopoff put a Twitter up last night with the blocked photo, saying, "It's a shame that our representative is afraid to engage with our campaign. We are simply drawing attention to your record and the ways in which you've misrepresented it. A public servant must listen to and praise criticism.
Listen to
listen to praise and criticism. Sorry, a little bit of word salad.
Yeah, cool. Well, there you have it, man. See, more news.
Yeah.
Well, take us to your wonderful, favorite topic of late is the Koch brothers funded organizations and events that you've been bopping around in.
Yes. So yesterday, the Pennsylvania Senate GOP Policy Committee had the Commonwealth Foundation flax their Fairness Center, Mackinac Center, which is from Michigan, Center for Individual Rights, who brings cases against the Voting Rights Act and affirmative action, and the Conservative Education Fund to talk about going after public sector unions in the post-Janus world and legislation to pursue in that process. And they didn't like that I was there.
They didn't?
No. One of the guys got up, sitting in the back row. Now I'm like towards like the front. Like, so you got to picture this room. There's like there's a ramp going up to where the senators are sitting. Okay. And you can usually set your camera up there and everything. So I was standing in that corner without going onto like the rostrum or the podium area.
Uh-huh.
So I'm on the ramp taking pictures and video. And one of the Commonwealth Foundation, I think like the actual communications director, literally got out of his seat in the back aisle, back row, got up, walked over to me, took a cell phone out, and just started taking pictures of me from 5 feet away and walked away.
Dude, you've gotten so far under their skin, I can't even tell you. You don't belong here.
Sorry to crash your party.
This is our safe space, Sean Kitchen. I'm going to show you my disapproval. I'm going to take a picture of you, and I'm going to keep it on my phone. Oh, my God.
I know. So, like, I had my camera bag on my shoulder, right? And it had my, like, DSA button on there and an anti-fascist flag button on there. So they might try to use that against me in the future, but I don't know.
Oh, yeah. What they're going to basically they're going to put you on a list that's going to be based on the White House report about about socialism. What are you going to do? Right. I mean, it's like, oh, Sean, your most closely kept secret has now been exposed. You're a DSA member and you don't like fascists. Oh, you're done. Your career's over. They got you.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
it was actually pretty interesting seeing like everyone in the front row sitting next to each other at this thing. Like they had a teacher there who was suing the union. They had the Fairness Center guy sitting next to him. Then they had the Fairness Center guy was sitting next to the Mackinac Institute guy, and the Mackinac Institute guy was sitting next to someone from the Center for Individual Rights. All these Koch brother groups who they claim they're completely independent from.
Yep, they just happen to be there.
Yeah, and the one guy gave me like as I was taking the pictures of this guy like on the table, you could just tell he's getting like really fucking pissed off at me for being there and just snapping my camera, you click, and stuff like that. And so on the way out the door, he was just staring at me the whole entire time, like this old white dude with gray hair. And like on the way out the door, he's just staring at me as he's leaving. And I go, I'm like, a little bit of a kiss, like a little bit of head nod and kiss. And he just.
Started popping his blood pressure medicine right then and there. Crazy, man. Crazy. Well, I mean, this is, it's funny if our political world were not in just a complete disarray since 2016, this is the kind of stuff that would have been front and center to like a good part of our programming about what's actually happening. Because, here you go. All this work, the stuff that we've been talking about for years about, the Koch brother networks, about, about Alec about.
I mean, they're doing this in plain sight too.
That's what I mean. It's like, and then this would have been kind of like front and center.
Like they're like moths when the sunlight hits them, they just fucking scatter.
Right, but they're still going. You know, see what I'm saying? And again, in some ways, like the midterm elections and all the craziness right now gives these people cover right now.
And also it's the type of thing where they don't. It's amazing that they hate like the opposition showing up to these things and taking pictures of them there.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
because it's open, Sean, but it's not really open.
Yeah,
it's a gentleman's agreement. You see, that you're not supposed to show up. You're supposed to let us do whatever the hell we want. Because we're going to take our money and we're going to throw it all into legislation, and then you're going to have to live with it. That's
like this committee meeting was literally put together like a couple days before, like yesterday, like 2 days before yesterday, and announced out of nowhere, and no one really. This wasn't on the schedule for like a week. Exactly. It was publicly posted like 2 days before it even started, and
that's how they work.
Yeah, and it's like they don't like it when people catch wind of it.
Nope, they don't at all. That's why they do what they do. Speaking of doing what they do, I live in the PA first, right? That's, newly organized, right? This is, right now it's represented by, Brian Fitzpatrick, who's a Republican. He took over that seat, was basically passed on from his older brother. He handed it down, it's his hand-me-down seat. Again, he won it fair and square, right? But the Fitzpatrick name is basically, kind of large here. So, he took basically the same, almost identical signs that his brother used, these giant signs that farmers would put out, "Farmers for Fitzpatrick," right? And the only thing that was changed is their tiny first name that was on there too as well. But Fitzpatrick has been kind of running in this, but because of, one, the kind of political and demographic shifts that we're seeing in Bucks County, where I'm at, and the whole really southeast of the state. Brian Fitzpatrick, now who this was always considered a very safe seat for him. They've had, always wanted to kind of see him and the Fitzpatrick's family as moderate Republicans and so on. Even they vote with the Trump administration about 90% of the time. This has been, largely seen as a seat that's not contestable. However, in this year, that is no longer the case. There was a pretty vigorous primary out here, Democratic primary out here, that was won by Scott Wallace. And Scott Wallace is now basically within striking distance, and basically some polls show him ahead and be able to take the seat. So there's the contest, right? So part of what it means to take back the House, right, just in terms of power, right, is actually electing Democrats, right? So if you are in, like, I don't know, like say like an organization that represents lots of other people, right, and you consider yourself a movement, right, what you understand is like it's important to have that power shift, right? It's that you don't just go say, well, oh, this guy's nice and this guy helps out a little bit here and there. No, you understand power dynamics and all this, right? Which is exactly why, right, we vote Democrats, and is exactly why PSEA, right, and the Pennsylvania AFL-CIO have endorsed Brian Fitzpatrick. No shit. They're endorsing the Republican because why? He's nice. He only voted with Trump 90% of the time. Is that why? So I literally got a text from my wife one day, and she's like, "Are you kidding? Did PSA actually endorse Brian Fitzpatrick?" Right? And I'm like, I can't imagine. Well, I can imagine. Let me look into it. Let me find out. Right. And I'm driving home from work that day. Right. And what do I see? Of course, Brian Fitzpatrick is not a stupid politician. Right. So what you have, you're going in through Quakertown as you're entering basically the district. Right. There's gigantic, like 8-foot sheets of plywood signs that say with stencil letters, PSEA endorses Fitzpatrick for Congress. And signs down there, PAAFL-CIO endorses Fitzpatrick. Right? That's what that does. So you've got these two. Look, I'm so fucking pissed about this shit. I can't even tell you. Right? And like I looked all over the place, right? And I told Sean before we went on today is that I should have just emailed these folks and say, what the hell is up with this endorsement? right? But I mean, seriously, I couldn't get past the what the fuck. I was so mad that I'm sitting there and I'm greeted with these gigantic signs like all over the place because there's endorsements. If you go to any of the pages, if you go to any of the endorsements, like the PSEA site or the PFL-CIO site, and you ask why did they endorse it, you can't find that information anywhere. Right? You know where you find it though? On Brian Fitzpatrick's webpage. About why them getting, we're glad to accept the endorsement of the teachers unions, right? Voting with anti-union strains, right? So here you go. I mean, I don't know what the hell it's going to take, people, right, to get to the point where you got to have an understanding of the way freaking power works, right? And I don't mean behind the scenes, rubbing elbows, kind of internal stuff. I'm talking about building movement power here, right? I mean, it blows my mind. In a context, in a post-Janus world, where we can see the consequences, elections have consequences, the consequences of having kind of like a rubber stamp for a right-wing autocratic regime, right? We can see what the consequences are. To have the labor movement get up and give their stamp of approval to Brian Fitzpatrick blows my freaking mind. I don't care if he's the nicest guy in the world, right? I don't care if he's kind of like moderate compared to the nut jobs, right? What I know is that the world doesn't kind of go around by kind of like, oh, yes, well, he worked with us on these couple issues. The world is based on power at this point. So either you're going to elect people that are going to support your agenda right across, and you're going to give yourself a majority, or you're going to freaking shoot yourself in the foot, right? And this is why Michelle Wolf has always said this, right?
People think you might flip the House and Senate this November, but you guys always find a way to mess it up. You're somehow going to lose by 12 points to a guy named Jeff Pedophile Nazi Doctor. Oh, he's a doctor.
Yeah, that's exactly that.
Oh, he's a doctor. Oh, he's a doctor.
That's right. He's a nice guy. He's one of us. Okay, we can work with him. Drives me crazy. So, you know what? I will personally, this is the kind of thing that I'll be raging on for a while. And the fact that Scott Walz actually has a shot. We've had this conversation before. I was really disappointed in my own union, ABSCUF, for their endorsements out west, right? They did not endorse Sarah Innamorato. They did not endorse Summer Lee. Right. They endorsed the old Democratic machine on the grounds that, like, well, we've got to play blah, blah, blah. It's the same garbage. Right. And so you probably had these endorsements that came out because they thought that they were playing the same old game that they've always played. And now you've actually got a Democrat who can win this and take this seat back to add to a Democratic majority in the House. And what do? You freaking give ammunition to the Republican. I don't know what the hell is going on with you people. So I'll leave it at that. It really bums me out, Sean.
I was just letting you go. You're like butter. You're on a roll.
You're like butter, baby. I really. And so, you know, and again, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm going to stop because I'm just going to repeat myself. But I had something in the notes that I took out too as well with just about we've got our negotiations are kind of gearing up for this year, and our and ABSCUF's negotiations, and they're kind of looking forward to kind of doing a different model towards negotiations, which I've got some concerns about. The jury's still out. I'm not making a judgment at this point, but I'm not going to talk about that this week because just because, especially after that, because then I'm going to. Forget it.
I'm in the back just waving you along. I'm like, no. Go on that.
Oh, let's go, man. Come on, let's go. I know.
There goes another 20 minutes.
No, last thing I want to mention, right? Sean's like, no. You can see his like fear face. Go on. No, you're not going there. No, don't talk. But look, we talked about this last week, or maybe it's 2 weeks ago now, that the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, right, based on the United Nations, just released its most recent report, and in that it basically said, look, it was probably the most stark one that they've released in ages, and it basically says, look, we've got 12 years. If we don't get our shit together in 12 years and kind of like dramatically reduce our carbon emissions, then you're talking about catastrophic climate change in our lifetimes. Right. That's a big deal. And
we could easily we can let a couple billion people die. It'll be good for the planet.
Right. Exactly. Right. Kind of secure our long-term food resources. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, except that the bugs are going to eat them all, and they won't be able to grow anything in good sections of the world. But whatever. All right. So that's why, look, people, like, on the one hand, we get kind of people who get frustrated with some of our kind of takes on things because we talk about, I don't know, power politics in a practical sense, as opposed to voting kind of idealistically towards what, makes us feel good inside. So we get that kind of critique, but we also get critiques of people who get mad that we are kind of like hard on Governor Wolf, right? Or hard on the Democrats. But this is a perfect example of this, because if you are watching, you're following anything in the race right now for the government or for the governor's race in this state, you would think that climate change is an issue, right? And this is even more of an insult to injury, right? Because look, Tom Wolf has thrown himself in with the natural gas industry, right? And kind of like gone kind of like, double down on kind of fracking and kind of extractivist future. Pennsylvania is the third largest carbon emitter among all the states, despite the fact it has a much smaller population than many of the other states, right? So we are part of the problem here in the state of Pennsylvania, that we are the number 3 carbon emitter, and we're not talking about climate change. And Governor Wolf is still coming kind of down on the side of the frackers, right? So I want to propose, like, after this election and after kind of, yes, and let me be clear, by me saying that does not mean that I want you to go vote for Mickey Mouse, right? It does not mean that I want you to vote for Scott Wagner. What it means is that I want you to vote for Tom Wolf and then hold his feet to the fire and demand climate action, and don't allow him to rest.
So someone is standing outside the Capitol right now?
Yeah.
With a trash can mounted to a pole. It has no Scott Wagner on it.
See, Sean?
I'm in a waste management business. Everybody immediately assumes you're mobbed up. It's a stereotype, and it's offensive.
Yeah. There you have it, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. So after the podcast today, you going to go track him down?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Let's see if we ever get off.
Yeah, we are going to get off. Come on. All right. So, yes. So anything else in state of Pennsylvania that you want to talk on today, Sean?
No, but I got a couple good things for the fun half.
Oh, fantastic. Because beforehand, when we were talking about it, you had nothing for that. But I'm glad that you've woken up to the point where things have occurred to you that, maybe I do have something to contribute to this. That's great. That's awesome. All right, cool. Well, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We will be back right after this break. Sean flips me off. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. For the past 7 years, Raging Chicken Press has brought pull-no-punches, progressive reporting and commentary to the interwebs. Our long-form investigative pieces, stories that no access journalist wants to touch, or rollicking weekly podcasts strive to advance progressive movements and perspectives rooted in the struggles happening across the country or down the street. We've broken national stories and caused our share of discomfort in the halls of power. If we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. And you can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken Press for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. We need to make sure to keep the movement in the media and the media in the movement. Best way you can do that is to become a member of Raging Chicken today by going to patreon.com/rcpress. Thank you for your energy, your encouragement, and your support. Keep up the fight. Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. It's time for the last call. And leading off today, news break. Sean, take it away.
The MAGA bomber van, the guy is old, white, male, and drives around drives around in a white van with bumper stickers covering every single window and facade possible. It fits the profile.
Yep. If anybody ever had, Fox News was basically trying to float this, or some right-wing media trying to float this. This was like a false flag operation, right? Or something like this. If anybody had any question about that, you go check out the pictures of the MAGA bomber van. And it's the guy who was just arrested. His name, I'm not going to say his name. But if you look at some of the stickers that you can make out on the bomber, it's all Trump stuff. It's all CNN suck stuff. It's like youth soccer for Trump, make America great again.
Every milk for Trump.
Yes, everything that you can imagine that would be consistent with MAGA hat wearing.
At least you guys see they're consistent.
Yep.
So yeah. Hoo-wee. Yeah. So I got something really cool to talk about this week. So a large mural went up on the Capitol steps.
A large mural.
Yes, a large vinyl mural that went on the Capitol steps on the face of the stairs, individual stairs, right? So you have like the face going up, and you have like the long part of the step, the run, right? So like on the face of these steps going up, like all the way up to pretty much the top of the Capitol steps, is this mural in like a pyramid, with like eyeballs on it, right? And it demonstrates, it protests family separation at the borders. And at the in the Berks Detention Center, and this is something that was months into planning. It's vinyl stripping on these steps, and it was something that is pretty freaking awesome. Came out looking amazing. Well, Senator Scarnati's top staffer Drew Crompton was walking down these steps the other day and was realizing what was going on. And said it's highly inappropriate to have something this political on the Capitol steps just 2 weeks before an election, and that whoever signed off on these permits should be held accountable. So, needless to say, like it sparked the attention of the journalists because this press release went out, and some dog whistling and saber rattling from the PA Senate Majority Leader. And it amazes me, like they act like they own the building.
They do, Sean.
Yeah. But yes, definitely something you got to check out and look. It's freaking awesome. I got some pictures of it last night. It's supposed to be up there for the next couple of weeks. I think however, it might come. They might have to come down because of the inclement weather it's coming. So,
did you post pictures of it?
A couple, but like not yet. I gotta edit them and all.
Wait. Did you post pictures of it, Sean? Yeah, I did. Yeah. Well, not yet.
not finished ones.
Oh, I gotcha.
But like, I posted a couple cell phone pictures of it.
Oh, did you? I haven't seen them yet. I'll have to check.
But they came out phenomenal. Like the artwork is pretty freaking cool.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah,
very cool. Very cool. I was I was actually sick yesterday, and this week it's been bad. So I'm behind on following your Twitter feeds and stuff. So sorry about that. Or Instagram account. All right. Well, I've got some cool news this week. One, you've heard me talk about this on the podcast before. I've got this piece that's been coming out. Been waiting for this to come out forever. It's been like 3 years in the making for this book to put together. It's an awesome collection called Unruly Rhetorics, Protest, Persuasion, and Publics. Huge shout out to Jonathan Alexander, Susan Jarrett, and Nancy Welch, the three editors of the collection. Seriously, put together an absolute amazing book. So if you are at Kutztown University and you're actually taking my Rhetorics Democracy Advocacy class in the spring, you'll be reading this book because it really is. It's the kind of thing, and personally, I have a chapter in it, chapter number 8. And it's called "We Are Not All in This Together: A Case for Advocacy, Factionalism, and Making the Political Personal." Right. One of my favorite lines in it that I wrote is like, by calling for civility, right, in the wake of what's happened with the Tea Party victories, and after this with an Obama and now Trump, right, is like showing up to a gunfight with thank you cards, right? So pushing that a little bit. Gotta love that. But it's my favorite piece of writing that I've ever done in my life, at least professionally. So that's I'm very happy to see that. I got the advanced copy this week. It comes out on Election Day, right? So I'll have a link there down in the show notes for you to check out. And the bonus of the week, was not expecting this come out this week. It was like a while back. Was it the spring or the summer? It's the summer. So Rachel Riedner and Gordon Matler, they're both at George Washington University. Rachel and I co-wrote a book called oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it. Oh my God. That's awful. Rachel and I, Democracies to Come. I can't believe it is blanked on that. Rachel and I wrote that book together, Democracies to Come, several years ago. She's a good friend of mine down in D.C., also knows my friend Seth down in Westchester. But she and Gordon, because they interviewed Seth and I after hearing us talk a lot about the ABSCUF strike for 2016. And it was like several hours interview talking about some of our political histories, about kind of like our approach to organizing, and some of kind of like reflections on what happened in 2016. And the real focus of that interview is was kind of before the strike, right, leading up to the strike when we got there. So that was pretty fantastic. There's going to be another interview as we come out later. But anyways, that interview, section of that interview, the first part came out this week in Academic Labor. It's an open access journal, and it's titled Neoliberal Higher Education: Background of the Pennsylvania State College University Faculty Strike of 2016. I'll put a link to that there too as well. It's not very often you get a chance to have that kind of sustained reflection about a really historic kind of occurrence, or historic event that you've been, a participant in. So thank you to Rachel and Gordon and Seth, man. It's always great kind of seeing your words in print, because Seth's so much smarter than I am. That's what it comes out to. He is. He says things better. He's got a better way of whatever. As you know, I ramble. Other news, free will, right? Real quick stuff on free will. If you remember last week, they were supposed to come out with a pineapple rant, but they shelved that. They said, nope, it wasn't where they wanted it. Well, they got it coming out this week now, and it's going to be part of a double can release tomorrow. That's on Saturday. There's going to be one. It's called Grapesicle. It's a pastel IPA with Merlot and Muscat grapes, oats, milk, sugar, and vanilla. Comes in at 6.8%. That's a collaboration with Stone and Key Cellars. There'll be four packs will be available at both locations, and also Pineapple Rant, the one that they wanted, is out now. It's a contemporary Goza. How do you say that? Goza. I always say it wrong. It's a contemporary Goza with pineapple and coconut. That comes in at 7.1. Also 16-ounce cans. They will be 4 packs will be available at both locations. So I'm looking forward to checking those out. I haven't sampled much beer this week, to be honest with you, because I've been nonstop working on crazy stuff for work, just mind-numbing things that got me sick by the end of the week, but hopefully I'm not going to carry through the weekend. Anyways, anything else for the good of the order, Sean?
No, nothing much.
Nothing else fun? What are you doing this weekend?
Crickets? Nothing.
Okay, there you go. There you have it.
Yeah, no, not much is going on. Well, actually, Fitterman, Wolf, and Bob Casey are going to be in Carlisle on Sunday afternoon, and I'll probably go down to that, get some pictures. Should be good.
Awesome.
Campaign rally.
Awesome.
Wolf has decided to start campaigning for governor for re-election. He's doing a bus tour the next couple weeks.
Yeah. Ask about climate change. More crickets. All right, everybody.
Looking for work.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was looking for those crickets. Yes. So that brings us to the close of today's Out to Coup podcast. We will be back next week. It will officially be November when we come back. I wish everybody a happy Halloween. Man, if you are out there knocking on doors, if you are out there kind of organizing for candidates, if you are out there trying to get out the vote, man, phenomenal. Keep it going. I want to just give one last shout out to like people in the PA Student Power Network who've been doing absolutely amazing organizing. People like in the DSA all over the state who are organizing, and all over the country really, who are doing absolutely amazing organizing. For the next gen folks, I've mentioned this on this podcast before, but at Kutztown University alone, they've registered several hundred students, which is absolutely amazing. There's going to be buses that are organizing to the polls, and you're seeing this kind of energy everywhere. So keep it up. We're in the home stretch, and man, let's take one giant step towards bringing some sanity back to the world. So anyways, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press, and we're going to leave you once again with that high moment of the week when little Andrew Gillum brought it to it. We didn't even talk about that in the main part of the show. It's kind of funny, but that's pretty cool. Anyways, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Look forward to talking to you next week. Keep everything rolling. Keep up the fight. Here we go. See ya!
My grandmother used to say, a hit dog will holler. And it hollered through this room. Mr. DeSantis has spoken. Hey, first of all, he's got neo-Nazis helping him out in this state. He has spoken at racist conferences. He's accepted a contribution and would not return it from someone who referred to the former president of the United States as a Muslim, Nigger. When asked to return that money, he said no. He's using that money to now fund negative ads. Now, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm simply saying the racists believe he's a racist.
I could listen to that all day.
Yeah.